All right, greetings traders. Sam here from TradeDevils.com and TradeDevilsIndicators.com. And today we're here to introduce to you the Trade Devils Market Profile Indicator. Now I'm recording this on Sunday the 28th, so I'm not connected to any data. We're just, as I always do, I'm just looking at the most recent week of data here that we can look at. So as reviewing here, we can see we've got Thursday's price action here in market profile. We've got Thursday's overnight, and then we've got Friday where we had that massive run at the end of the day. So I think what we'll do first here is just let's dig into some of the parameters and some of the functionality that's built into this indicator. Everything is entirely customizable. What you're looking at is how I set up my chart and color choices, etc. All of this is completely customizable, but this is how I like to look at it. So let's just dig in here a little bit and go through some of these parameters, and hopefully you'll get a sense of some of the features and power that's available to you to customize this to your heart's content. So the first thing we'll note here is that we make we split between the overnight and the RTH, or the RTH and the ETH sessions. So what we want to do is go through and customize each one of these, and what I'm going to do here is just walk you through some of the options that are available to you. So as we start here under parameters for the RTH, we're going to obviously we'll start with the start and end times here. So I keep my machine on East Coast time, even though I'm in Central time. So 9:30 to 16:15 or 4:15. Now we do have the option here. You can display either just the RTH, just the overnight, or you can display all of them. Now I prefer to set it on all, although you do have the option to individually load these as two different data sets. But I don't think you gain anything by doing that. So by displaying all, as you can see here, that'll give me the overnight market profile as well as the next days. Now in contemporary market profile analysis, a view of the overnight, and whether it looks like it's balanced or imbalanced or perhaps has a bias, bullish or bearish, is important to interpreting how we might anticipate the market opening. So while you have that choice to divide them or just look at RTH only, we think that setting it up to display both will give you the maximum amount of information in terms of market structure. Now we do also give you the opportunity here to set the time here in terms of the minutes. Now it's very traditionally done on a 30-minute bar chart here, but you can customize this to your heart's content. You can put it on a daily, weekly, whatever you like. But for our purposes here, we'll stick with the 30-minute. Ticks per letter, we require 4 here, again customizable. And then the value area here percentage is 68.2. Some people will round it to 70. Again, we're giving you that capability. You have the option to show or hide candles. Now if you're new to market profile, sometimes it will be advantageous to show the candles if you wanted to do that and apply it here. As I have it set here, I like to kind of have them in the background. If I wanted to see the bars just for reference, that some people prefer to do that. The more you work with market profile, you'll find that you don't need to see it. But again, I just wanted to make the point that that's an option to display them. So I'm going to come back here to our settings, and I'm going to hide that. So I'm going to take that off and then apply it here, and we'll go back to just the market profile with volume profile. Now along those lines here in our profile type, we have the choice here. Let's focus over here. Right here. Let's bring this over to the right here. All right, so you can get a little bit more of what you can see on the screen. So let me bring this off to the left and get our market profile hot again. Okay, so as we work down here, so now we've established that we're going to show both the overnight and the RTH. We do have the option to split the profile here. This would split all of them, but you also have a contextual right-click menu here, so I'm going to suggest that you look at that as an option, although if you wanted to split the profiles, you can certainly do that here in the settings. Now, you have the option to show volume profile. You can show just the current day or all days. Again, that's just an option. I prefer to see them for all. I want to see both the market profile as well as the volume profile. We have the choice to show statistics, which you see down here, so you can see the total TPOs, the session range, the IB range, the opening range, the value area in points, and then whether or not it will give you some insight into whether you've got a selling tail or poor low or a weak low, as we found on Friday's action. So showing the opening range here, as I've got it noted here. Now this is available to be color coded to whatever you prefer. I'm just very used to this, so I put the opening range in orange and my IB extensions in blue. Now you will note that not only will you get them here in terms of a text outline here of where they are, but you're also going to get them represented by a bar here. So, and we'll look at, when we condense the chart, and we want to look at more profiles or over a greater period of time, having reference to those bars will be useful as we compress and then we lose some of the text. I'll show you what I mean by that in just a sec. So the option here, show the opening range, right, defined as the first 30 minutes, the initial balance, the first 60 minutes. You have the option here to highlight the first letter of each period. Now, I like to do it by coloring the first letter of each one of those TPOs. So I have it set to white, so if I click here, and then we're to here, and here you can see the contextual application here. So by right clicking, well, we just looked at this being able to split unsplit within the parameters. I prefer to do it here just with a mouse click. So with a right click I can unsplit, and then if I open this up, you can see here's the opening range, the first 30 minutes, here's the initial balance, here's the value area here in this grayed out region, here's the point of control in yellow. All right, we'll get to some of these parameters, and then I can look at the entire day's TPO profile, and by splitting it here, and I can see that each one of these periods, the opening price at each one of these periods, I have color coded into white. So at the end of the day here, we can see we opened this period here just beyond the value area high by that white letter M, and then we went into just a massive rip here. I think it was 52 points off of the low up into the high, and then we ended up closing on the high here as we were starting to establish a little bit of value here as we hovered at this level. So you can see that here reflected not only by the TPOs but also by the volume profile. So it's going to be interesting to see how the market responds on Monday, because certainly we have vulnerability here because the market went up so fast it wasn't really able to establish any support there. So now I'm going to condense the profile yet again so we can look at it in more traditional format here, and let's go back to our parameters. So back to our indicators, and let's go back here to our market profile and just carry on. So we left off here at highlighting the first letter of each period. You can do it by color or by outline. I find color is the easiest on the eye, right? So my suggestion would be do it by color, and you can choose whatever color you want. I just happen to choose white. It's easier to spot. You do have the option to show the price at those levels. I choose not to, because I can always just use my cursor to get those price points. Now the IB extensions here, as we note here for the initial first hour, the 100, 200, and 300, and we note here we went beyond, we went to about 350 of the opening range here on Friday. I prefer to see those just on the RTH and just on the current day. I think that's where, again, that's my preference, but you did, just so that you understand, you have the option to show those on all days, no days, or just the current day. Again, my suggestion, just do the current day. Now here's where we have all of the options in terms of what we want to extend. All right, so you see all of the extension options here relative. Again, this is all relative to the RTH session. So we give you the option to extend the value area high, the value area low, IB high and low, opening range high and low, at the POC, the open, the close, and the session high, session low. Again, these are my preferences. This is what I do want to see. I also choose to hide broken levels. So once we trade through a level, I want that to be hidden, but that's an option to turn it on or off if you want to see those prior levels. They often will come back into play, and that can be something to consider. Value area high and low. Well, we're giving you two ways to represent this. We're giving you just the block outline here of that 68.2% of the trading time, but also the capability to extend it with a line, which I think many market profile traders will find there's advantage to doing it that way. Again, this is just my preference, but I want those to be extended. I want the initial balance to be extended. It's very important. Algorithms are very responsive at the IB high. So I absolutely want that extended, but again, remember, it's represented by the blue brick here, by the blue bar here for, I guess I would describe that, and then 100, 200, 300, and it will continue to notch those and note those extensions as far as the market goes. All right, so those I like to see extended. Opening range high and low, again, I have it here by the orange brick, so again it can be too many lines, so I choose to just keep the opening range high and low represented by that orange bar. Point of control, of course, that there's value in having that extend, so we wouldn't want to miss that here. As we note, we went right up to a prior point of control as we went and put out the high on Friday. And then you have the choice to extend the open or the close. I do just the close because I always want to see where we close relative to where we open the following day, for some insight into how we might anticipate the first 30 minutes of trade to unfold. And with that, here, all of these options that are available to you, now we move into the overnight session or the ETH session. Now here, as we look, let's see, let me condense the chart a bit as I bring this back together. All right, so now as we look at the overnight sessions here, you'll note that I put those in just a mono color here because I'm not terribly concerned about each individual period. I just want to see primarily the value area highs. Let me open this up here. I want to see the POC. I want to see the value area highs, and of course I want to look at the volume profile as well. And of course you'll note here on Friday's low, we came right to the overnight value area low just prior to that launch. So let's go back to our indicators here, and we'll focus on this side, looking at the overnight session and the options that are available there. So I'm going to come back here. We'll go down to where we're focusing on the overnight session. Now, again, I do want to see it in letters. You have the choice of letters or blocks, right? It's just individual preference. You can put it in multiple colors. I prefer to put it in a mono color. Again, what I'm looking for is range and whether or not we're balanced or perhaps trending into the overnight. You have this, again, we have contextual split here as an option, or you can split it here in the parameters. I want to see the statistics underneath the profile as well. Again, that's just an option as to whether I want to show it or not show it. The TPO count above or below the POC, I don't really focus on that in the overnight session, but that is an option for you, just as we have it as an option up above. So if I want to see current TPO count above, below the POC, for me, right, you have the choice of all days or current day only. By just giving you a sense of whether the bias is, the sentiment is bullish or bearish relative to the TPOs above or below the POC. So back to our ETH session. So again, all of the choices here are duplicate of what's available to you here. All I'm doing is changing the color of it. I still want to see the volume profile. I still want to see value area high. I still want to see where the opening close is. But again, these are all just choices. I'm not interested in IB extensions in the overnight because that's not really a thing. Hide broken levels. So again, this is very similar to what I do in the day session. I just have fewer choices here in terms of what I'm extending. So the only thing in the overnight that I choose to extend is the value area high, the value area low, and the POC. But all of these additional choices are available to you. Okay, now we go down and we start looking at the volume profile, which will always be right next to whether it's the day session or the overnight session. We'll look at the volume profile. So you have the choice here of resolve in second, minute, or tick. I choose second. Rows, I like to keep this at a max at 0, and the space between rows at 2. Again, you can set that to whatever you like, but we think you'd be just fine with the default at 2. So with that relative to the volume profile, now we go into our color choices here. So this would be relative to the text color here, which would be specific to these or the statistics. The label fonts here, right? So I have these set to a 10 and an Arial. That's going to be a focus on the TPO letters here. You can choose whatever you prefer and whatever size you prefer. The letter font here, I have it set at 11. The statistical font, I have at 9. And then the initial balance, now we get into the colors. Initial balance blue, opening range in orange, so those blocks are represented. Value area, I keep it in a light gray so I can see it, but I don't have so many lines that I can't see through my chart, so I just want a subtle shading here, but I do want them to extend. This would be value area relative to the volume profile here. So of course I have it set here in blue, POC in red, and then out of value we go into this lighter shading. Again, all of these customizable, whatever your color choices that you prefer can be set up based on your preferences. I keep the POC in yellow, so it's very bright and very available, and I can't miss it on the chart. Value area, right? So this would be the block here that we see highlighting your value area, right? You set that to whatever you like, and whatever opacity you like. The volume point of control, again here in red, and the first letter outline here, as we talked about previously, as we start each TPO range, I want to see that in white. It just pops to my eye here, but you can set that to whatever you like, whatever color you'd like. And then the profile colors, again, this is entirely customizable. So you'll note here in my overnight session, I have it set to a mono color. I just have it set to a gray. Again, I just want to see whether we're balanced or imbalanced. Now, this is all the color schemes this is all the colors that are coded into our RTH session. This is kind of a rainbow setting. Again, I've seen market profile traders do this a couple of different ways. Some people like to just color the first two TPO periods, so the first 60 minutes of the initial balance in one color, and then everything else in the same color. Again, this is just personal preference here. I'm fine. I like to keep it at the alternating colors here, but really, again, this is just about personal preference. So we're giving you all that capability here if you want to choose it, or as I suggested, perhaps just do the A and the B period here, or the initial balance in one color and then the rest of them in a separate color. That's not uncommonly a choice that market profile traders will make. And then down here we're back to just standard ninja features here that you would recognize for any set of indicators. So with that, I think now we'll go to some of the contextual issues and options that are available to you here as we focus now working back from Friday, Thursday, overnight Thursday. Now, one of the things that you'll notice here, because we're in linear time here, is that we have to make a compromise here. So if we want to condense the chart here so we can see more profiles here, well, what you'll note here is that as we start to condense, we lose some visual references here, but you'll find that over time and working with this indicator, you won't need to see the text, because your eye will recognize, again, opening range is orange, the initial balance is blue, the value is gray, and then we have our TPO colors. Now, as we compress, you'll note that we have to lose some things. So look right here. So here, as we have the text for all of the overnight on Thursday night, as I compress, we start to lose that text, and ultimately we end up with just the colored dashes. Now, as we continue to compress, because if I wanted to look at this in context relative to prior profiles, well, we start to lose as we compress. So the next thing that will go will be the statistics that are underneath each one of the profiles, right? So there they go. As we condense, we start to lose until they're almost all gone here, and we start to compress. Right? So now I can start to see this. Now you'll note here I've lost all of the statistics underneath. I've lost all of the text markings here, but I maintain the dashes. So again, I know that's my opening range, this is my initial balance, this is my value very high. So it's still easy on the eye to interpret what you're looking at here. You're just losing some of that detail. It's the trade-off you have to make, and as we compress more and more in here, we start to see really what the market has been trying to do all throughout this entire week. So I think I have 14 periods here. So working from our high, just looking as the week progressed, you can just start to see the market is auctioning lower and lower, but we continue to get these tails here that are forming in the afternoon hours here. So while we go from balance to an imbalance here, we find balance, then again we get a balanced day, almost a double distribution day here, and then balance here, but we get these long tails as the market is auctioning lower, looking for perhaps higher time frame traders to absorb here when they see value. And it does happen rather dramatically. So as we're auctioning lower throughout the course of the week here, and you see this here, we end up with a relatively weak low as we get these double prints here. So all week long the market is auctioning down, which I can see as I compress the information here. And I can see that all week long, so we had swing, retrace, we're auctioning lower until ultimately we can see that we reach a point here where higher time frame traders come into the market. They see potential value here and then rip the market higher. And if you were just look at that on a bar chart, you can see exactly what happens here. So if I bring this up here, and we don't need We can hide that. So we can just look at it. So here's a 60 minutes, so we can recognize exactly what happened here. So as the market is auctioning lower, which we can see through the profile, ultimately we come to a 50% retracement from this swing low to swing high. We come to the 50. Higher time frame traders see value here. We get the double wick rejections down here, and then straight up we go and off to challenge that high. So this is simply being reflected in the auction price process as the market is auctioning lower until ultimately the higher time frame traders see value, and then they crank it back up, and off we go from the low here, which corresponds with this 50 here, and we see the double tail, so we get a weak low here, but it's absorbed, and then the market screams all the way up to challenge those highs, right? So we see it represented here. So each one of these can be split, so I can see that here. So you can think of these are just like 30-minute bars. So I can see the test down here. We auction down here. Ultimately value comes in, then the market responds off of this low. Then you see it establish value here, and then note here on Friday as we go into the end of the day, you'll note that we tag not only the low end of value in the overnight session, the volume profile, but we get a couple of TPOs below here. We come down, test the low, and then if I split this profile, you see that after the test here, we get the rip launch into the end of the day right now. So looking at a market profile is not going to tell you that that can be expected, but it's going to give you a frame of reference here in terms of where value is, and then if the market starts to move off of that, do we go into a trend mode? Now this is unusual on a Friday to get that kind of a rip, but again, nothing in market profile is going to tell you that that's coming, but certainly we can recognize as we come into this area of prior value that the market is probing here, and as we look at that in the context of higher time frame, we can understand why the market takes off from there. Right? Again, no way to know how far that's going to go, but recognizing the potential here as the market auctions down here, looks for value, and value traders step in here at a higher time frame and take it up. So there you go. That ought to give you plenty of insight here into what you have available in terms of the detail, and then if you're compressing data like this, so you can look at profile and you get a sense of where value is moving, and as the market auctions lower and then ultimately higher, by splitting this here, we can see that move unfold. So you can see swing, retrace, testing value, and then the final push higher. All right, so we will be doing some training on market profile and how we include it and what we're doing here. You can look for those videos to be coming over the next week or two. But for right now, this will give you good insight into what we're offering to you via this indicator. I think we've got a nice balance here between functionality and affordability. You certainly have other traders or other vendors in the market with a wide range of price options here, but we think this is very well balanced between features and affordability. All right, so with that, I'm going to condense all of these back down and bring this back here, and we'll wrap up here. All right, as usual, if you have questions, you can reach out to it. Remember, you can trial all of our indicators for 5 days, full usage, unlimited usage for 5 days. And we send when you request a demo, we send you not just whatever individual indicator you're interested in. We send you all of our indicators. You can try them all for 5 days. All right, with that, I will sign off. Wish you guys happy trading, and we'll talk to you again.